Okay, wow, it's fun here. Welcome everyone. So this is the BC podcast presented to you by Vanguard Connect and 20 something podcast. I am your host for this evening, Naomi Simon. Okay, so I'm so excited for this evening. We'll be exploring so many issues, identity, ACS, the human zoo, and much more. So this evening is about educating and learning, and we want for all of our listeners to contribute by using the hashtag VC Podcast on Twitter. Okay, so now without further ado, let me introduce to you the legendary, extremely humble founder of Vanguard Connect, Peter Adefioye. Hi,
Wow,
Peter.
what an introduction. I don't know if that was no, I'm joking. But hi Naomi, hi
Hiya.
everyone who's listening in as well. So yeah, I'm excited for this podcast, this live podcast, and it's something that I believe is important as we know, Black History Month is celebrated in the UK in the month of October, and many people question whether it should be only a month or whether it should transcend a month. And the reason for this podcast is to celebrate the fact that Black history is all around us and it transcends a month. Hence
Mm,
why we have it in November. And again, the reason behind why Vanguard Connect exists or why it was created is the fact that it's because of a seminar, in fact, a seminar that I went to watch a few years ago by the organization Black History Walks. And many people who know me will know that I often speak about this doll test. There's something called a doll test that it's an examination that's been running for several years now, and it really got me when I was exposed to it. And what it basically was many young children, many young people, black and white, under the ages of 5, I believe, they were asked questions about what they attribute positivity and negativity to
mm,
when it comes to two dolls in front of them, a black and a white doll. And
mm,
bear in mind, all of these kids that were interviewed with under the age of 5. And what was to my amazement was the fact that all, not all, but let's say 90% plus of these children, particularly the black children, would assimilate negativity to the black dolls and positivity to the white dolls. And for me, why that was quite impactful was because they'd only been in the world for a few years, literally 3 4 years, and they have such views of people like themselves. And why this impacted me is because I doubt any of these little children grow up in households where their parents say to them that you are less off because you are black.
mm,
Therefore, it says a lot about the world or the state of the world we live in. For
mm,
example, media. I always talk about media. Media is a big one. You don't necessarily need to feel negative about yourself by people directing things at you. It can be indirect. If you're seeing on media, for instance,
mm,
adverts of beautiful women continuously and they look nothing like you, that's going to have a impact on yourself. And why this is quite big and important is the fact that it shapes the perception of you on yourself and others' perception of yourself as well. And this limits, some can argue this, but this limits how much you can achieve or what you believe you can do. So for instance, if I can't see any further than the tree in front of me, I'm not going to attempt to go past that tree in front of me. If I perceive myself as not being able to be a supermodel or go to a certain university, then that's going to affect how I am. And I mean, it really came home when, for instance, I had a relative, a young girl, a relative who said she didn't want to marry someone of the same skin color as her. And
wow.
literally these things just showed me how real, although she said it as a joke, she was under the age of 6, and this just showed me how real perception is.
Mm,
And if it's affected people who are under the ages of 5 and 6, how much more people who are over the ages of 10, 20, people who even claim to be conscious or educated.
mm,
So these thoughts mixed with other things like, for instance, positive action groups such as the rare recruitment, SEOs, power lists. What I notice is that when I go to such events or when I go to such places where they do activities and they educate people like us, I meet amazing people. And what's sad about this actually is the fact that these events are short. Therefore, people, what they do at most is they exchange Facebook or numbers of the other person, and all of that, or the concentration of greatness in that room or that venue for the time gets fizzled away. So this idea of VC or Vanguard Connect is literally connecting vanguards who are at the forefront of change, development, movement, and an army. And that's what I believe people like us are, people who are changing this perception that I speak about, people who can bring the solution to my little sibling who said she doesn't want to marry someone who looks like her. People who can change the perception of little children who think that a black doll is innately less off because it's black. So literally it's about that, and it's about sharing information that empowers us and makes us aware or conscious of ourselves and how we stand in the world, and just overcoming that, really. So that literally is what the group's about, and we do this through projects, which this is 20-something podcasts. Like, people on the group have many projects which people can get involved in. We do this through education, which is, again, the sharing of articles, of just things to do with the media outlets to educate us, and networking. So we have our gatherings every so often where we can connect and build on top of that. But yeah, I won't talk too much on it, but this podcast is important for me because I believe the people on it will contribute to the listeners' knowledge and perception as well, in terms of solutions, and just shine light on issues that need to be highlighted at the end of the day, and hopefully empower us to become more conscious.
Exactly, and I think your key word there, one of them, is solutions, and that's really the aim of today, the theme of today. So I just want to reiterate, thank you, Peter. Did you want to say anything else?
No, that's cool. I just want to say thank you once again for everyone who's listening, who's logged in, that this is literally just about educating people and helping the perception of people like ourselves in order for us to be empowered and achieve more than we can, which many of us are doing. So thanks.
Thank
do
you.
Your thing.
No, thank you. And I want to remind the audience and the listeners to don't forget to keep tweeting #VC Podcast. So Peter will be reading out your tweets throughout this session. So, okay, so let me introduce our panelists for this evening. So, Sienna, let me start with you. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, fantastically.
Hi, okay, so my name is Sienna, and I'm a member of Vanguard Connect. I'm a friend of Peter's, and I, amongst many things, am the editor of No Fly on the Wall, which is a platform for people to discuss intersectional feminism and all sort of related subjects, I guess. I was very much inspired by the Fly Network at Cambridge University, which is a group of women of colour who we just kind of got together and decided, yeah, we're going to kind of create a sisterhood for ourselves, and you know, I was inspired by that and created this blog, this website, and what else do? I do a lot of different stuff. I do a lot of public speaking as well, and yeah, I'm forever kind of frustrated by the state of the world, I suppose. And I think what I really found powerful in Peter's introduction, the fact he called us an army. Sorry?
Go ahead.
That he said we're an army, which is interesting. You know, I think it's very true. Like, we're, you know, the vanguards at the front line. I think our generation, I really do believe our generation is the generation where I think we've kind of had enough, and there's a lot kind of going on at the moment. People are, you know, we're holding podcasts like this. We're always talking about what's going on. Social media is definitely helping us connect better. So yeah, I think I'm very excited, and I think it's very key that we come up with solutions that people can all partake in. That's my spiel. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sienna. Solomon, if I could now go on to you, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi, I'm Solomon Olukoya. I'm a law graduate from King's College London. I'm a member of Vanguard. Mostly I'm sort of interested in feminism and other strands of equality, so racial equality as well. I have recently set up a charity or an NGO in Nigeria, and I'm sort of looking into diaspora and getting people back into Nigeria.
Excellent. Wow. Okay, and Tina, finally with you.
Hey y'all. Thanks again for tuning in. My name is Tina Lasisi, and thanks to Peter for inviting us. I'm a recent graduate from Cambridge. I did biological anthropology, and some of you who have also been on the Vanguard group or in the London unis may know me as that weird girl who asked you for your hair. Because for my dissertation, I wrote about human hair diversity and specifically about the scientific aspect behind African hair diversity. So basically, my thing there, area where I'm coming from is anthropology, and I'm really interested in what we tell people about the scientific truths of why we're different. So essentially, the history of scientific racism and what we know about our physical differences. And at the moment, I am applying for a PhD to study that. And those of you who are in the group will hear about a big thing coming up soon. So watch this space.
Wow.
Thank you. All right. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for being here. So let's get straight into it. The first topic. Okay, so very recently, Kim Kardashian and I quote, broke the internet with photographs taken by Jean-Paul Gaultier. You guys all heard about this, yeah?
Unfortunately, I've heard about this.
Yeah, unfortunately, for Paper Magazine. So the cover of the magazine is actually the recreation of Gaultier's 1976 photo called Carolina Beaumont, and not that many people know about that. So that photo shows a black woman standing in front of a blue wall, balancing a champagne glass on her butt in a half-squatting, almost submissive-like position, like exactly like Kim Kardashian. And that featured in a book, and like I really could not make this up if I tried, called Jungle Fever. And this book is by the exact same photographer. Okay, so Jungle Fever featured black women in positions that fetishize their bodies, and the photographer himself has compared the black bottom to that of the arse of a racehorse. So my question to you, Tina, if you would like to start us off here, is was Kim Kardashian and Good playing their part in racial female oppression?
Was just Kim or the photographer?
Both. Kim Kardashian and the photographer, yeah, Good. Jean-Paul Good.
Both
Yeah.
play a part in what's going on here. Some people are arguing that we can't blame Kim because, you know, she's also being oppressed. I don't think that that's true. So first of all, just to get this creepy photographer out the way, it's 100% unforgivable. Okay, the book is called Jungle Fever. It's the exact recreation of a photo in that book. Like that itself should tell you that it's gonna go belly up. And there's just no way to talk straight or to justify fetishizing a race. Like Jungle Fever and Yellow Fever and all these fetishizations, wow, what a word, of minority women are dangerous. It's something, fetishization is not a compliment. That's what people, I think, miss out a lot of the time. They think, oh, well, I'm complimenting you because I appreciate you for these qualities that most people don't. But the way that the appreciation is done is within a dynamic of oppressor to the oppressed, which is just, you know, it's not right. It's not appreciation anymore if you take away people's power and you do it in a really weird way. And now to move on to Kim. Kim and her sisters have a really weird dynamic with black men in America specifically. I mean, I just found out about the general issue of black women specifically and their problems with black men in America recently, but it is really a thing that a lot of rappers, a lot of successful black men in America see it as a status symbol to have a non-white woman. I mean, rapping about having, you know, some Russian model and this and that, it's a status symbol, and to an extent, that's what Kim Kardashian is, but the offensive part is, and I think the thing that frustrates a lot of women is that she is co-opting a lot of things that black women are known for, but because she's white, she's not black, she presents them in a more palatable package. So you get to have, you know, the big black booty, you get to have the lips and all these things that black women are known for, but it's okay and it's elegant and it's tasteful because she's white.
But that is a huge explanation. Thank you very much. And Diana, do you want to come in? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I'm so with Tina. I think, you know what? I'm so tired of Kim Kardashian. I would just like to point out, I try to avoid this because she's boring. But in terms of, I don't think she thought that deeply. If I'm honest, I think it's another, I'm going to do something to be popular. It's another, for her, you know, like I just think it's just something for her to be popular, like fine, whatever. But I did read that someone asked her about, you know, racial issues, and I'm just going with what I heard, that she said, like, she never thought about race until she had a black child. So I kind of think that sums it up really in terms of Kim Kardashian. But I think that Tina's hit the nail on the head. Like, Kim, you know, is non-black, but she embodies a lot of the kind of black racial stereotypes, shall we say, and it's palatable because she's Kim Kardashian, she's white. I personally think she and her family, the women in her family, do fetishize black men a lot, looking at their history. I also think Tina's got it spot on that it seems, you know, it's not necessarily just in America, but if we're going with an American kind of example, yes, a lot of successful black men seem to, more often than not, decide to go with non-black women. And I think, sure, you know, love could be one of the reasons, but it does kind of seem like with these celebrities, it seems like it's a bit of a status symbol thing. But yeah, in terms of God, that creepy, disgusting photographer, well, you know, he dated Grace Jones, actually, and his whole Justin Bieber thing was about how much he was, like, crazy about Grace Jones, and, you know, he's very, like, misogynistic. He's the exact example of misogynoir as well. To be quite honest, we've got to remember that. Yeah, he's like a creepy old white man, like whatever. He's gross and creepy, but he's, you know, this is the society we live in. We're like bigging him up because he made some photos. I mean, because there are lots of issues that people have with this magazine cover, and like they're beyond kind of race. And like, you know, I don't think it's our place to say Kim shouldn't be naked because she's a mum. Like, how do you have children? You have to get naked at one point, right? But but in terms of thinking about race, I don't think Kim Kardashian, I'm going to say I don't think she's intelligent enough really to be thinking too deeply about, or this is like me being part of a racial problem. I don't think so. And most people weren't talking about it. They were talking about Kim's butt and her tits breaking the internet. But yeah, I'm not a fan, but I just think I think she's not really thinking deeply about the racial implications, to be honest. I think it's for people like us to start discussing what she's actually partaking in. You know, Kanye thought it was cool. That's his wife. Okay, whatever. And you know, hey, she's got a mixed race daughter. I think that's interesting too. I think it's very dangerous when you you don't, you have a mum or just people in your family who perhaps don't quite understand that part of your identity.
Okay, so if we are agreed that this is disrespectful to black women, so does this...
Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess, if we want to use that phrase.
Does this link directly back to people such as Sarah Bartman of the Human Zoo of the 1920s, etc.? Solomon, come in and have something here?
Yep, I'll come in. So, I'll take your last question, the comparison with Sarah Bartman. And I did read an article which suggested that there were similarities, and Kim Kardashian's being fetishized in the same way. And but the article posed her as a victim of sort of issues of racial and gender discrimination. So it's quite interesting to see how sort of Tina and Sienna have sort of maybe not taken her away from being a victim, but don't see any victim status in Kim Kardashian and what's going on. Because if you agree that she's not sort of intelligent and not well versed in the issues surrounding misogynoir, then it could easily be argued that she's actually a victim of this. She's been told by a photographer that, hey, let's do something really cool, really avant-garde, it's going to be similar to what I've done in the past, and she's just gone along with it, not knowing the implications. And so, in that sense, considering that she is a person of colour, could it not be argued that she's also a victim of sort of misogynoir, and she's part of the people we need to help rather than part of the problem?
I think she's someone who's laughing all the way to the bank, quite frankly. That's what she's doing.
Exactly.
Someone who is not a victim. She's someone who has built a career from almost exploitation of certain things. Like, I don't think she's a victim, if I'm honest. I don't see it as that. Like, she wants to be spoken about, and we're talking about her, and everyone's talking about her, and I don't think she's a victim, like, really at all.
And Solomon, the important, one of the important things about the article you were talking about Sacha Bartman was that I think the article you're talking about was the one arguing that she actually has some kind of agency in it. So I remember reading an article in which it was essentially suggested she didn't know completely the implications of going along to England, but when abolitionists were trying to get her back to South Africa, she was adamant that she wanted to stay and, you know, make all this money, and she knew that people were fetishizing her, but she thought that she could essentially turn the tables and make money off of that. In a sense, I agree that Kim Kardashian is doing the same. Like, she knows that people love her ass. I mean, you wouldn't post selfies on Instagram of your butt all the time if you didn't think that people loved it. She knows this.
She's really worked on her butt. Like, come on.
Yeah, but there's definitely, she definitely has enough agency that I wouldn't call her a victim, even though I understand what you're saying. And like, using woman of color, I like, because she's Armenian, like, I understand what you mean, and to an extent, I agree with you that there is some kind of, you know, fetishization of the exotic with her, but at the same time, she is literally, like, Armenia is by the Caucasus, which is where the name Caucasian comes from, and when they're in America, most of them can pass for white, and I think that white passing is an important aspect. So, like, you know, within the categories when we consider racism, we have to also consider colorism within the people of color community, because at the same time, Sienna brought up, you know, Kim Kardashian didn't think about race until she had a black daughter, and actually, well, you know, being a mixed race girl with a white mom, I can say that people don't get close enough to the subject until they have a kid who comes home crying because somebody, you know, said something mean to them. People don't think about it. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few years, you know, how she changes her mind, because I think she will become very sensitive to it, because unfortunately for her, she gave birth to a baby girl and not a boy, so that means she's going to get, you know, the brunt of the misogynoir.
Okay, so to round up this first topic, I've got a question. How do we then gain back the respect for black women and our bodies? Tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll throw that one at you.
Oh man, if I had the answers, I don't know, if I'm honest. I don't know. I think, you know, it's about agency. I think that's one thing, agency. I mean, everybody has something to say about what black women look like, what black women do with their bodies. You know, black men, black women, white women, and everyone else in between. So I think it's a case of us first. It's really hard, but I think it's very much a case of us first, taking back our identity, so working out what it is and taking it back. So being like, do you know what, we're going to put ourselves out there in the media and we're going to define our idea of beauty. I think Audre Lorde said something, I'm paraphrasing, but something like, you know, if I didn't define myself for myself, I'd be, you know, crushed into other people's fantasies of what I'm supposed to be. So that's what it is. We've been crushed and smudged into what people think we should be like. And I think it's about us owning back our identities and keeping them that way. And people have started doing it with the Black Hair Movement and everything like that. We just need to keep at it and keep going.
And just to interrupt here and add a little tweet that's come through. There's someone, Electro Fee Better, thank you for your tweet. She says, I don't think Kim actually knows the implication of that shoot. I think in her mind she thinks she is controlling her agency. So I don't know what you ladies and guys think about that, but
I think we kind of were mixed on that. I think Solomon might have been implying that maybe she didn't know everything, but I think me and Sienna are thinking, well, she loves her butt. She knows what her butt can do.
I think she just, my thing is beyond her butt. Like, she wants popularity. Like, for people like Kim Kardashian, it's as long as I'm being spoken about, that's great. That's all it is.
Don't forget she made a sex tape. So I'm sorry, but like,
I'm not gonna, like, whatever, she made a sex tape, but my point is, like, she is laughing all the way to the bank. Like, she doesn't care. I think it's reckless to not do your research before you go decide to, like, do a photo shoot or whatever. But if she's getting paid millions or thousands and thousands or whatever, like, whatever, she's gonna do it, and she did do it, and it's worked out fantastically for her.
Great. Okay, so let's go on to our next topic. The next topic is the Band Aid 30 lyrics. Which are in aid of Ebola, which is a devastating disease affecting parts of West Africa. And it's the 30th anniversary of Band Aid. So Band Aid, are the song, do they know it's Christmas time? All, those lyrics.
And it's all.
Why?
And I'm going to read out some of these lyrics because they're that bad. Okay, so for those of you who may not know or may not seen it on Twitter, here it is, okay? So, where a kiss of love can kill you, and there's death in every tear, and the Christmas bells that ring there are the clanging chimes of doom. And then it goes on to say, no peace and joy this Christmas in West Africa. Yes, the whole of West Africa.
Those lyrics, who wrote that?
It's Bob Geldof, I'm pretty sure.
Like, why?
And then when they talk about themselves earlier in the song, this is how they refer to I assume Europe or Britain. It's Christmas time, and there's no need to be afraid. At Christmas time, we let in light and banish shade. And in our world of you can spread a smile of joy, throw your arms around the world at Christmas time. So you can see the contrast there, okay?
Yeah.
Just to interrupt quickly, could you, because I was hearing lots of oohs and ahs, could you please expand on individually why you think this is a problem, especially how this affects or seeps into, some may say, the subconscious of many people out there, and affects not just how they view themselves, but of Africa, and why you think such a huge hit is technically wrong in what it does? Like, what's your opinion of that? Why is it wrong, and what do you think we should be doing, or the solution to that is?
Should I go? Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, this is the white savior stuff again, you know? Okay, I'd like to make a few points, just basically. So, firstly, you know what? My mum hates all these Band-Aid things. Like, you know, so my mum, you know, I think, yeah, you know, she's like 40-something now. And so when they came to Sierra Leone to do like one of the first Band-Aid stuff, okay, my mum took part in it, and she was dressed nice. She had her nice shoes, Sunday best, as we Africans do. They didn't show my mum and her school. What they did was show these children with flies in their faces, yeah? And these children who came from, like, wherever they came from, to paint a certain portrait of Africa, okay?
Wow.
So they know for a fact, okay, that, I'm sorry, we know that there's Christmas in Africa. Like, what? Hello? So I think my mum is like, she has a personal, like, woe about this whole Band-Aid culture. But on the one hand, you think, yeah, it's really great, they're raising money. Like, you know, for instance, with Ebola, my aunt died from Ebola in September. So this stuff really, like, ticks me off, quite frankly. Yeah, like, it really does. This isn't the way we're gonna, like, get a virus out, for starters. I was thinking, you know, what we need to do is, we as black people, for heaven's sake, the African community took too long. Like, everyone shut their doors and left Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia to rot, and they're still, like, dealing with the consequences of Ebola now. But basically, the only way to go forward is we as African people, we as black people, need to support each other. Like, enough of this white savior complex. Like, what is Sam Smith being on stage singing Feed the World gonna do? Like, it's not gonna bring back my aunt. It's not gonna bring back people who have died. So I hate this stuff, basically. It makes no sense, and it makes other people feel like they're doing something, makes them feel better. That's what I've got to say about that.
Exactly. My particular opinion is that this incites the single narrative of West Africa again.
That we have no Christmas, and that we, like, are darkness and they are the light.
Exactly. And it literally says that. It literally says we let in light. Literally. Like, it couldn't be any more obvious, any more
We've allowed that to happen, guys. Come on now. Like, we've allowed it to happen, though. This is the thing, because we haven't taken control of our own narrative. So, of course, there's a gap, there's a space, and it's been filled by this kind of trash.
Exactly. If I can offer one anecdote just specifically about Band-Aid and all these charities, when I was doing my my field work, I was sitting at an African barbershop, and I remember we were just, you know, watching TV, and a commercial came on of some charity, and it was showing, you know, this every minute a child dies of hunger, you know, your stereotypical African child with flies around its head, looking really sad and hungry. And this man said to me, these things make me so sad, because when I talk to my children say, Dad, I don't want to go back to Nigeria because this is what it's like there. And that just broke my heart so much. Because it is, I mean, until I went to university, probably halfway until high school, I didn't know anything about Africa, because we are not taught anything about Africa. If you don't have, you know, if you're not lucky enough to know what it's truly like there, you buy into these ideas of the fact that it's always been poor, that it needs a helping hand, and that it's this desolate, awful place. And it's not helping. You can't say, well, but we're raising money. I hate that excuse. You cannot say we're raising money, you know, it's all for a good cause, because it's not for a good cause. And numbers have come out showing that actually Africans in Europe and abroad send back more money than gift aid or whatever aid ever sends back. And let's not forget that money is hemorrhaging out of African countries because Europeans are so busy patting themselves on the back that they're taking a little extra while they're doing so.
Right. Okay. So Solomon, just to bring you, do you feel this demonstrates a sense of European privilege?
In the short answer, yes, it does. It's the same issue, but if we sort of take it from a different standpoint of how it affects how people in Africa see the rest of the world and see the diaspora, it's having a really bad effect there as well. They, a lot of people in Africa will see this and see that as the manifestation of who's trying to help them from abroad. They'll see sort of the white people in the positions of power, the white people in the pop songs raising money. They won't necessarily see sort of the underground workings of, as Tina said, people who send money back through remittances back to Africa and trying to sort of build up anything they can, trying to send money back so people can have adequate healthcare. They won't necessarily see that. So what happens is it creates this complex of people from Africa sometimes don't feel we help enough in the diaspora, but then they'll sort of attribute so much praise and adoration for, as we've already said, the white saviors who, at the end of the day, aren't actually doing much. Most of what they do is for their own publicity. It's sort of hilarious how the 30th anniversary of Band-Aid comes just in time for the Ebola crisis, and this is how sort of Bob Geldof is marking the 30th anniversary with this terrible song and with these terrible lyrics. What I'd rather see would be money donated into finding sort of adequate healthcare resources for all the affected areas. And as Sienna said, other West African nations shouldn't be closing their doors or closing their borders to their neighbours who have serious problems, because Africa's landlocked. So once you close your borders, there's nowhere for people in Sierra Leone to go to. So the Ebola virus will just spread around the country without any adequate help. And then we have issues such as a lack of quarantine, and then we have countries in the Caribbean closing their borders to African nations, and then the US were debating about closing their borders. So it was a few weeks ago, it was bordering on becoming situations where Africans probably couldn't even leave Africa anymore for fear of having Ebola, and then it's really just sort of making us look like sort of the laughing stock of the world, and we can't control our own healthcare, and all of these things just add up to make Africans look, I'll just say it, stupid, dumb, weak, and unable to fend for themselves, which leads to more aid being pumped in, which doesn't go to the right places, and we just get this cycle of dependency.
Okay, so the aim for this podcast is solutions, right? So how can we create broader narratives of African nations? Tina, I'll put that question to you.
Well, I mean, I was just looking through the tweets, and somebody actually said it's easy to say that we as people need to work together to help each other, but it's a lot easier said than done. So do you think, King Cannon? I agree with that sentiment. It's easy to say we need to work together, but to give some concrete solutions, it's about awareness. I think that one of the biggest problems with the whole dynamic between quote unquote underdeveloped or developing countries versus the West is that a lot of people in Europe, in America, truly believe that they are better developed and that the people in these developing countries are in some way inferior. Yes. We need to build up connections. We need to have, people from the diaspora going back and, tweeting those damn selfies, tweeting this, tweeting that, showing that there are real people in Nigeria, real people in Ghana, real people in Sierra Leone who have all kinds of varied lives, and that you need to work together with these human beings to find a solution that they want that's going to help their communities.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head again there, most definitely. Okay, so let's wrap that topic up, and let's go into the ACS. So many of us, not all, but some of us, joined the African Caribbean societies at our universities. So the next part of this discussion is to explore the role that the ACS plays. And so, Solomon, let me ask you, what do you think is the role of the ACS within our community?
So the actual role of the ACS is much different, I think, from the intended role. The actual role of the ACS just seems to be another cultural society, and it seems to be to sort of facilitate meeting people of the same race as you. So if you, when you first come into university and you're African, you probably won't know that many people because there's not as many African people in university as there are sort of white people or European people or people from the United States. So what the ACS actually does is it brings you in touch with people who've got a common root and a common shared history with you, and most of the time a common culture, so you can bond over sort of where you're from in Africa or where you're from in the Caribbean, type of food you like, the type of music you like. I think the intended role, maybe what it should be, is that the ACS should be there to sort of power any sort of student issues that face the black community. So it should be more political. It should be much more political. It should be much more wide-ranging, and it should be much more hard-hitting in sort of, as we discussed today, solutions to the problems we have, what problems we do have, and sort of educating members. But the main issue with the ACS is that it's a collection of your members. You can only do what your members want. And most of the time, a lot of members of the ACS aren't clued up into sort of issues about race or issues about sort of the politics of Africa and the Caribbean. And so what they want from a society is sort of enjoyable things like parties, sports, and socials. And so you get this sort of hybrid of the ACS on the surface looks like it's trying to push for sort of political issues, but when you attend the events, most of the events are geared towards having fun, socializing, and sort of general merriment.
Most definitely. And Sienna, maybe you could also come in here. I was just going to say that Black History Month should be a big cause of celebration, and is often limited to 1 month. What do you think is the role of the ACS in promoting Black history or Black History Month?
Well, I'm totally agreeing with what Solomon has been saying, by the way. But in terms of the ACS, well, if I speak for my experiences, I was the person who came quite late into the ACS scene, if I'm honest. I was kind of dragged by my hair, and the reason why is because when I came to Cambridge, I was that person who really didn't feel like I had a need to join society just because I'm black. I want to bring attention to all of that. Times have changed since then, put it that way. But once I did join the ACS, I did find it a very sort of comforting space, because I was amongst people who kind of got it, But in terms of, I don't know for Cambridge, I really can't quite remember, if I'm honest, which says a lot. But there are talks. Like, I think if I use SOAS as an example, just because I have some connections there and I do a bit of work there with some of the societies, they had an amazing like series of just stuff going on all month, which was great. But I think the ACS, I agree with Solomon, it should be more political, but it's just not. It's a fun place to go and eat food, but I think it should be more political. It should be at the forefront of like campaigns. It should be at the forefront working with the student unions to make sure that the interests and the welfare and well-being of the students of colour is being looked after. And definitely promoting Black history kind of throughout the year, really. So I think Cambridge, there were lots of great talks all year, but there's always room for more, right? But I guess people are busy as well. But it should be a space where we really promote. And the thing is, it really, on the one hand, it should be a space for us people of colour, but it should also be, we should have a role in kind of teaching the real history, teaching the real culture to our white friends and our non-black friends as well. But easier said than done.
And in my experience, anyway, Black History Month to me has been restricted, well, when I was at school or at university or wherever, to Martin Luther King. Do we therefore have a limitation in what we know? How can we educate others if all we know is Martin Luther King, at the very most maybe Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, etc.? How can we educate others if we ourselves don't know? What resources can we get access to? How are we going to solve this issue of needing to know more?
We have to go and get our education outside of the classrooms and outside of university. That is like the key thing. And you can't teach other people about your history if you don't know it. And that's the key to oppression, to make sure, Malcolm X said it, for the people who don't know their history are going to be easy to oppress, and that's really what's happened. So we have to go out there and we have to support writers of colour. We have to go out there and we have to go to Black History talks, and we have to go to Black History walks, and we have to go and find our history. I think, as well, it was Alice Walker who said, I think it was her who said, she looks at history not to get facts but to find clues. That's clues. And yeah, when you find your clues and you talk to your parents and you talk to your peers, you start to kind of see that what you've been taught at school isn't quite correct. And the Black history we have is either completely about slavery, as if that's all that we have ever known as Black people, or it's very, very African American, and we do not have the same experiences. I think the Black British voice is very, has been silenced in every aspect of the struggle, and that needs to change, and then we can start to educate other people.
So do you think the ACS then has the potential to almost be a vehicle to spearhead the education of Black history?
100%.
Pardon?
Yeah, 100%, for sure.
So, I mean, it most definitely does. Like, I can't speak for Sienna, but I actually joined ACS pretty late in Cambridge as well. But when I joined, and it was in my second to final year, there were so many talks. And the thing is, Cambridge not only has an ACS society, it also has at least one African society that is not, that is separate from the ACS. And they held so many talks. And, because I do anthropology and archaeology, I remember especially the archaeology talks being really interesting. And like Sienna said, people who don't know their history can be oppressed, but people don't realize how many times this has literally happened in history. The first thing that a lot of nations establish once they're recognized is a museum to justify their history. Zimbabwe is named after the archaeological site of Great Zimbabwe, and it fought a long time to have it recognized as an indigenous African civilization, as an indigenous African society, because when colonialists came there, they tried to take away this history. They saw these amazing buildings that they could not argue were not in Africa because they were so deep into Africa. They had to be, but they said, you can say, quote, I quote here, the yellow people made it, but you can't say that the blacks made it. You can't let them have that. That's the point. They try to take away these achievements, and it's difficult to find out about your history because if you don't hear anything, because you don't know where to start, and if you don't have those clues, paraphrase Alice Walker, you don't know where to go. But that's why it's important to have a presence in the media. It's important to have a presence at university, because university is not too late. I mean, I came into university knowing very little about feminism, very little about racial theory. I excused a lot of racist behavior because I have always been the minority. Like, I grew up in Holland. I don't even have a Black community here. The first time I met Black peers was when I went to Cambridge at the age of 19. Like, that's late. But it's still a great place, to learn so much, and you can learn a lot in a short amount of time. And at the same time, I think I would encourage people to take advantage of the university environment, because there are bound to be people in your university who have some knowledge or even some kind of focus on African history, African diaspora history, and I would definitely encourage African archaeology. You find so many interesting things. Organize talks. Be the person who does these things. Ask people. Try to organize things, and it'll happen.
So what books
I'd also like to point out,
would you recommend?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I don't know if maybe I said there weren't enough talks going on at Cambridge. No, there's lots of stuff. I wanted to amend that, but I was saying that I can't sort of remember. It's been a while, but
Yeah, so Tino, could you give us some hints or pointers as to where we can access some of these things or books, etc. from?
Well, I can essentially anything you can Google. What I can do, if you want, if it's not too off topic, is actually give you a few short quotes or anecdotes or things about African archaeology that people can look up that they may not know.
Exactly. Oh, thank you. So did you say you'll do that on Twitter?
No, I can give you a short, summary here of some stuff to look at.
Okay, go ahead.
I can tweet it as well. But so basically, a lot of people will know the ancient Egyptians and the debate of whether they were Black or not. I think that's an important debate. I think it's also important to remember they were in Africa. You cannot take away from their Africanness. But let's not fall into the trap of just discussing Egypt.
Egypt.
Africa is bigger than Egypt. So some other things that you can look at is the Meroitic Kingdom, which is also around the Nile Valley. You have Egyptian Nubia. You have Kerma Kush. Kerma Kush is essentially almost as old as the ancient Egyptian dynasties. And apart from that, in other regions, you have in Ethiopia, the Aksumite Kingdom. And if you look at their archaeology, they had these amazing pillar tombs with such intricate detail that will just blow you away. But we never see that. You also have the medieval kingdoms in Uganda with amazing pottery complexes like Entebbe and Uruwe. You have Great Zimbabwe, which you also can't forget. If you look at the architecture of Great Zimbabwe, Google it. There's so much information on it. And then my personal favorite, Gene Geno. It will blow your mind. Just Google it, read about it, try and find pictures, and you will see that you have not heard half of the amazing things that have happened in African history.
No, I haven't heard of half the things that you've just mentioned.
Again, just to interrupt, I've had a personal message from someone who is basically airing the view of how does a lot of the points we're discussing here, how does it affect the young male or female who's grown up in a society where they feel like they've been downtrodden, but they've overcome it just by working hard and not focusing on a lot of the negativity that stems from the media and from other sources that we were talking about. Why don't we just stop talking about certain issues and work hard? What is the relevance of things like ACS? Why do we need to chill amongst ourselves at university? Why can't, quote unquote, the message I got, why can't we be normal?
I totally understand that sentiment, you know. I'd like to say I totally understand that sentiment, and to whoever sent that message in, brother, sister, I was that person saying this stuff when I came to university in 2010. I was that person who was like, why must black people always go on about their problems? Like, maybe we should, like, get over it and, like, you know, pick the pieces up and make our way, work hard, stuff like that. But whoever you are, this is the thing, okay? That's not how it works in society, okay? This is intersectionality is important, okay? People are oppressed on racial lines, so it doesn't matter if you wear a suit or if you go and wear your pants sagging down. To some people, you're still a black person, and to some people, that is the most important thing. And yeah, it's really important to not see yourself as a victim, but when there are people being shot on the streets just because of their color of their skin, when there are people who can't get a job because of their African sounding name, it's really important to have these discussions. And it's really important for we as black people to take our heads out of the sand and really just face up to these issues and rise, like, amongst, you know, ourselves. We have these discussions so that we can be like, we're not going to be victims, we're going to own our futures and own our identities. And it's scary to look at, you know, what's going on, isn't it? Maybe there are, you know, maybe you're a lucky person who race has never been an issue for you, but for the vast majority of people, race has been a problem. So we have to have these discussions.
But I think that's the mentality of a lot of people, and that's why I think it's a really good question to address. And you know, I don't know if you want to just finish us up, or even Solomon, on this topic before we go on to the last topic. And there's so much to discuss, but we have to keep it moving. So Solomon or Tina, do you want to just wrap up on what you think also? Because Tina, I know you were giving us a bit of background and you didn't get to finish.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. I've got a controversial tweet, which is what I love, from the person's name's King. It's Rhiannon92. It's Renee. I know Renee. Shout out to Renee. She says, with such a large concentration of intelligent black people in one place, referring to the podcast right now, we should be trying to think of ways to solve, to be honest. So stemming from that, do you think that when certain topics as such that we're discussing are mentioned and we're just talking about them in general, we tend to we tend to be pessimists rather than trying to educate people? Just in general, do we approach problems like that?
Tina gave me a whole list of things, like what we were saying is educate yourself. So like Tina's given us a solution. She's given us a list of places to start to find out about your history. Like, that's definitely a way of that's a solution, definitely, right?
The thing about I understand the sentiment. I completely understand the sentiment. When you're dealing with a problem, especially one, as complex and as sensitive as race, a lot of black people, I think, this is my experience, police themselves. There's an air of respectability politics around having feelings about racism. You don't want to be construed as a person who just complains about race and, you just want to work hard, kind of, tacking on to that guy. But the important thing is to be aware of the fact that solutions don't always look like solutions and aren't always, this magic pill or this injection. It's a very good analogy is, when people go to the doctor and have all kinds of ailments and, they go to him and they're like, okay, give me something. And that person tells them, well, you have to eat right and you have to exercise. It sounds like, they're not getting a solution, but they are. Unfortunately, this solution isn't as easy and as, one click and go as they'd hope. It's not about being pessimistic when you talk about these things, but you have to feel comfortable objectively discussing the fact that some really negative things happen. But the thing is that ever since I have joined, ACSs or any kind of black community, I have never felt negative. I have never left a meeting feeling as if I was less than or incapable of or held back by my history. On the other hand, like you said, Renee, was it? There's so many intelligent people that you meet that you would have been cut off from had it not been for this organization. So you go into there and you hear that all these other people have been having these same problems, and that in itself is a solution because you're not alone.
Empowering, that's important.
And again, to interject, someone has actually they've tweeted something in the same lines as you, Tina and Sienna, actually. They said, just because you stop, it's Shante Joseph, London, LDN.
Yes.
Just because you stop talking about something doesn't mean it goes away. People say that about racism too. It doesn't stick.
Yeah.
Another tweet we've got in is from Ivan Beckley. He says, do you think enough of our Afro-Caribbean students at uni join the ACS? And if not, why?
No, they don't. I did it in my last year and I regret it every single day.
Really? And also, I'd like to hear Solomon's opinion on this, because I know you were a VP, in fact, of your university's ACS. And what did you? Because I know a lot of the roles you and the other committee members are focused on is engaging black people at university. So what's your opinion of this?
So I might say something that sounds really controversial here, but hopefully I don't get too much sort of fight back on this. I think some of the people who tweeted in, who said that sort of they don't see the relevance in ACS, you have a sort of they pose one side of that dichotomy. In some universities, especially where the focus of ACS is not political, it's more on just having fun, just going out, just meeting up with your friends. They have a huge number of people in their ACS. The ACSs are some of the biggest societies in their university. Their ACSs can sell out halls of over 1,000 people just because of the nature of the works they're doing. But then on the other hand, you have sort of other universities where they're sort of pushing, if not a political agenda, but just an African and Caribbean agenda where they're trying to sort of educate and empower their members. And what you see there is a lot of people feel that in those universities feel that ACS isn't relevant to me because of sort of the kind of topics that are being discussed and the issues that the ACS is focusing on. And so when you have that dichotomy, in some universities you have too many people joining ACS, and it becomes sort of what people refer to as democracy, where the ACS people say, we want parties, and you have to give them parties because there's more ACS people than there are committee members, and it's supposed to be a democracy, and you do what the members want. On the other hand, you have a situation where not enough people attend really insightful and informative sort of debates or talks about the direction of black people in this country, the direction of black people in general in the world. And in those situations, you have an ACS with a university with a lot of black people and a really small ACS, and that ACS is just as ineffective as an ACS with loads of members, which has no sort of direction and no sort of lead into where it's going. So what I think we need to do is everyone sort of needs to reflect onto what they truly want from an ACS. And the people who want sort of things that are not directly related to sort of African and Caribbean empowerment should probably look for another society, because what I've seen in like when I see other society, other cultural societies, like Jewish society, Palestinian societies, Arab societies, the Islamic societies, they do not focus on having fun. They focus on impacting their local communities and engaging their members about the wider community they live in. The KCL Islamic Society just raised over £43,000 in 1 week for Charity Week, which they're going to donate to various causes that affect Muslim people all around the world.
Wow, well done.
So imagine we had that same sort of brain. We have the same brain power. So imagine you had the same sort of desire to be active, and we could raise in one university, say half of that money, and donate that to issues going on. So say maybe the issue of Ebola or other issues, sort of finding sort of sponsorship for young black children to go to better schools or to attend university where they wouldn't be able to afford it. We'd be generating so much change in our communities. And so I think that's the main issue we have. And if you parallel us to other cultural societies, we may be doing much better than previous years of our own society, but in comparison to other societies, we're not doing as well as we could be, and we're not impacting our community how we should be. That's just my opinion anyway.
I think you've hit the nail on the head again with that. And sorry to cut you off if anyone had anything else to say, but we have to move on again. And I'm going to actually let Sienna introduce this topic of Exhibit B, the human zoo, because I know you were really passionate about it on Twitter. So first, you want to just describe what the human zoo at the Barbican was, in short?
It was in inverted commas, an art exhibition by the South African white male artist Brett Bailey, in which he exhibited black people in cages and in chains for the joy and the curiosity of 750 people at the Barbican over, I think it was 2 or 3 days.
And there was just so much wrong with that. And I only want to touch briefly on what was wrong with that, because there was also such a astounding achievement to come out of that, which was that we were able to shut it down. So, Solomon, do you want to say, have you heard of, I don't know if you've heard of the Barbican?
Yeah.
You have? Do you want to just say what you felt was wrong, if you felt that it was wrong, with demonstrating black people in that manner?
I think Akala wrote a really, really interesting article about this, about how it's just the masturbation of the white guilt.
Bam.
And, it was really poignant to me for 2 reasons. What he especially said is that if Brett Bailey was trying to sort of educate people about the issue of slavery, the issue of people being in human zoos, and etc., as he's doing, he could have done it in another way. He could have done it in other mediums which didn't need sort of live actors literally, well, not literally, pretending to be sodomized in cages, naked, and really just sort of depicting black people as useless and once again rubbish and inferior. And the second point Brett Bailey said was that, yep, he's trying to do this, and it's not just for white people, it's for black people too. Well, no, because it's in the Barbican. The Barbican is in central London. The Barbican, and it costs like £20 to go and see it. If he was doing something to black people in London, do it in like Brixton, or he'd do it in somewhere where there's a higher concentration of black people. He'd do it somewhere where we can see. And I think the most disrespectful thing about the whole exhibition was that he was trying to run it in Black History Month in London. I just thought that it's one of those things where white people just sometimes, when they have an issue which they know is on the borderline, and they know it's really sort of, in their words, they said avant-garde and trying to be sort of pushing the forefront of either race discussions, they will deliberately try and make it as controversial as possible just to see the reactions they get. And I'm not down with that. So I thought it was wrong. I was glad we petitioned. We as a people, we need to sort of rise up more and do that. If there's something we don't like, we can petition against it. And so all the talk that a lot of people say is, oh, it's censorship. Well, no, it's not censorship, because he's done this human zoo in many other countries. He's done it in his home country. We're not censoring him. We're just saying we don't want to see it in Black History Month in our country. I don't think that's a problem.
at all. And I just want to do a little plug because now he's trying to show the same show in Paris, and so there's a petition if everybody could sign it, so they can also shut it down in Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Either.
I would like to say though, I think language is really important in this. You know how you guys keep saying we shut it down? Well, the Barbican shut it down, so we've got to get that straight. These censorship people who want to go on about how we censored, Brett Bailey, 23,000 plus people told the Barbican we don't want it, and the Barbican shut it down. So we've got to get that straight. And the point is that they never consulted the black community ever. They even said they don't know who the black community is. So don't know who the black community is, but you want to go and represent us like that, really? But I just think language is important. Like, no, the Barbican shut it down because they realized that 23,000 people spoke, and that's important.
Yeah. And just to tag on to that, it's important that we spoke because I've heard so many times about things that have come up before, such as, human zoos or portrayals of black people in certain ways, and the excuse will be, well, you never said it was a problem before. And I think that a lot of people, because of this self-policing, we don't want to complain about racism because we don't want to be that angry black woman, we don't want to be that angry militant, black guy who's all about black rights. So we silence ourselves. But, when we do that, people don't hear about these things, and they honestly believe for some kind of delusional reason that these things are not offensive. But, by signing this petition and getting our voices heard, people can't have that excuse. We take that excuse away from them. They can't say we didn't speak because we spoke, and we spoke in solidarity.
And I think the solidarity point is really important. I was going to say the solidarity point is really important because, like, for instance, I mean, to be honest, that whole petition was led by a black woman, the amazing Sarah Meyer. She led that, and black men and other black women let her lead that. And, of course, she did do it on her own. We all were there with her, but she decided that this was wrong. And it just goes to show, obviously, like, non-black people signed that too. So that was, a democratic voice. People from all walks of life and backgrounds signed that. And the point is, like, look what we can do when we say we don't want this, and we create a solution. The solution was that we had the petition, and the petition worked. And it's like, that's really empowering stuff that needs to be repeated, because human zoos, they won't, they'll come and they'll go, and there'll be other things to deal with, whether you like it or not. So yeah, it's like doing stuff and having our voices heard and talking about it in the first place.
And actually, just one question that I have out there. What do you guys think about the actors? Because, obviously, people of color, I personally felt that this was a bit awkward because I figure, as a black actor, you don't get a lot of opportunities that, you're going to get cast for. And when somebody says, well, this is specifically for black people, I mean, I don't know how much actors want to act, but I kind of feel like, did they really have a chance between all the roles in the world, or did they kind of desperately go for this because they knew that they had a chance?
And just to interrupt very quickly,
go ahead.
We've got a tweet in from Deanna_X. She said, even though it did not happen, the fact that they even got the permission for such an exhibition is wrong. So I believe what she's alluding to there is the fact that it's perceived or deemed as okay to do such a thing because it's not offensive to people or doesn't affect them in any sort of way. Therefore, should we be continually addressing that problem even when there aren't shows happening? Should we just wait for shows to start making petitions and sign it? Are we not in a state of turmoil as it is right now without there being petitions or shows?
Of course, we should be. The whole point is that because it's a constant process, isn't it? And I mean, having a human zoo, the fact that people thought it was okay to even have that zoo, the fact that people thought the Barbican thought it was okay. And I actually think if it was a black artist, I wrote a poem called Zoos of Barbican, and I said, if I was Brett Bailey, would I be given that artistic license? And it's very unlikely I'd be given that kind of artistic license. And yet the point is, we should really be addressing these issues. There's an argument to say, pick your battles, but yeah, we should be addressing these issues. And I say a solution is we need to have more black people in the arts, okay? Because if we have more of ourselves in the arts telling our stories, it's less likely that there'll be a void for an artist like Brett Bailey to come and say, I will tell you as a white, male, privileged South African man about your history when we could do it ourselves.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head because the most offensive bit was that, he was a white South African. I'm like, how dare you?
One of the most racist nations, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How dare you come in as a guy from a privileged position from, one of the most horrifically racist nations in the world and do this thing and open wounds that have only recently sort of healed. How dare you?
Black History Month.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to wrap up. We have gone 5 minutes over. So I just want to ask you to add your positive thoughts on what an achievement it is and what we can do in order to make sure that whenever we do not like something or whenever we do need to come together, that we do so. So what are your solutions in order to create a collective, a black collective? Sienna, do you want to go first, please?
Well, I'd just like to say, thank you to all the tweeters and things like that. And I think overall, I'd say my outlook is positive, to be honest. Ever since I would call myself, someone who has come from that whole putting my head in the sand, being like, I want to just not cause trouble. I want the white people to like me, having that kind of background, that kind of mindset, and deciding, no, I'm going to stand up. I think our generation, we're doing stuff. We're having these podcasts and we're meeting and we're uniting. And I think, our power is strong. And once you've opened people's eyes, they can never be shut. And I think I'm really positive actually about what it is. Yeah, fine. Society kind of sucks right now, but there are people like us, there are people like you out there listening who are doing such amazing things. People of colour, young people of colour, who we are the generation to kind of fix our problems. I believe we are.
Okay,
set the way.
Solomon.
Yeah, so I'd say what's really positive about sort of the whole Brett Bailey situation was just the sheer amount of people I saw sharing it from all different walks of life, and they may not necessarily be interested in sort of politics or anything racial, but they understood that something was wrong and they decided to speak up against it. And I think if we had that outlook for a lot more things that happen to the black community, we wouldn't be in any problem. I think Tiana said it, where it's just respectability politics, where we silence ourselves because we don't want to be seen as sort of the angry black person. If we realize that sometimes we do need to be the angry black person because no one's going to be that for us, we get things done. So it's a sort of shout out to everyone who shared it, shout out to everyone who sort of liked it, signed the petition. And if we parallel it to sort of the Dapper Laugh situation, where a petition got his show cancelled, no one's going around saying, oh, like all these angry women, why were they doing this? Well, some people are and they're really stupid. But they're being celebrated for what they did. So I think we should celebrate ourselves, and we shouldn't even get into discussions of censorship. We should just celebrate that as a community. We saw something was wrong, petitioned against it and got it taken down, and we should just take that sort of outlook into everything that happens to us over the next sort of 5 to 10 years.
Great. And Tina, your last words, please.
I guess my positive closing solution would be, don't be afraid of the community. Don't be afraid of the ACS community. Join it. And, as somebody who joined it really late, I know that maybe some of you are thinking, oh, you're going to isolate yourself by just focusing on a specific aspect of your identity. But I just want to say, it isn't isolating you. You're just opening yourself up to more opportunities. You're putting yourself in contact with these people who have some similarities with you, but also have all this knowledge and all these experiences that you don't have, and you can learn through them. My advice is social media. Get on Black Twitter, get on Black Tumblr. Add everyone from your ACS. They're gonna tweet something that you think is brilliant one day, and it's gonna put you up with such a connection. Afropunk, all these things. Get educated, put yourself out there, and put yourself in contact with people. That's the best thing that you can do.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's just round up. Thank you, Peter from Vanguard Connect, very much. We've been trying to set this up for a while now. We've finally done it. Thank you to all the listeners for tweeting, for getting involved. Thank you to our panelists. You have all been really, really insightful, Sienna, Solomon, and Tina, which you can check out on Twitter. I will add all your Twitter onto the description of this podcast as soon as we got off. Keep tweeting. Let's carry on this conversation on Twitter as we get off. We'll jump on there afterwards. And again, just thank you, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon. So take care, and maybe not. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.